This just in, non-denom is a denomination. Next on the Metal Pulpit. Hey, thanks for joining me for another Metal Pulpit. Okay, let's talk about this for a minute. People say I go to a non-denominational church. Now, I have gone to so many conferences, I don't go anymore. But there was this big one, and I won't name the church, but it was in the Michiana area, which is Michigan, Indiana, Illinois area, and huge church. I mean, literally, like the kids section, the kids would check in upstairs, and then they'd jump in the tube slide, and it would take them to their classroom, like a big bank teller window. I gotta admit, that'd be pretty fun. Why don't they do that for adults? But yeah, so everybody thought this place was non-denominational, and they started doing the research on their website. They're Methodist. It's not a bad thing, but it's just one of those instances, and this happens all over the place, where people look at a church and say, well, that's a non-denominational church. No, they're tied into somewhere. They have to get their 501c3 somewhere, and so they lock in. But what happens, what the purpose of this, and even the little church I pastor, and I say little because it's the average size American church. We're at about 70 or 80 people in our church, and that's average size here in the United States, according to the Barna Report. But people come in, they're like, wow, are you non-denominational? And it's like, nope. Actually, we are affiliated with the Assemblies of God. And then I'm met with, well, you don't act like one. And I respond back with, it's with their blessing 12, 13 years ago that we leave the AG thing off. And so that's how we roll. And it's been a really, really good trip. Now, here's the thing. You get the people, the bloggers, the podcasters, the people that hop from church to church, and they say, I'm looking for a non-denominational church. And when they find one, and they find out that it's not exactly what they're looking for, they get ticked off. Okay, well, you're not talking this way, you're not doing things my way, and what happens then is another spin-off happens, or the person just leaves the church altogether, grumpy and mad, and I get that, okay? For some people, church going to a physical location works for them. For other people, they've been hurt, they've been let down, or they just really don't have an interest in it, they don't go anywhere. That's fine as well, okay? For me, and what has worked for me growing up is going somewhere. Partly because I am in vocational ministry on staff at a church, but that's the way I was brought up as well. I have no qualms about my upbringing. The problem I have, though, is when people leave a church, listen to another podcast, read another blog, and then they get upset because you're not doing what they want you to do. Meanwhile, the person who's telling you what to podcast and blog about and preach about, they're not doing jack. And so at least this church or this podcast or this blogger or just the person doing outreach is doing something to make a difference. Yeah, that church may not fit your fancy. That church may not be what you're looking for, but they're doing something rather than sitting back and doing nothing other than complain and tear apart the body of Christ. There's only one person that's the accuser of the brethren, the accuser of the saints, and well, if you're not working for God, then you're probably on that side, okay? So that's just throwing it out there. You see, we got to lock in. We got to do something. And so the question is, what are you doing? If you're part of a church, that's awesome. But know that 9 times out of 10, the non-denominational church that you're looking for is still affiliated with somebody. Are you willing to get past that so that you can lock in and offer up your talents and abilities? Because you have a lot to offer. If you're not a part of a church and you're just sitting back, you have a lot to offer. You really do. It's up to that church to let you in and all that stuff. That's on them. But are you offering up what you have, the ability that you have? Something to think about. Shoot me your questions, PastorBobAdams@gmail.com. and I will get to them in the next podcast. Have a great day.